Welcome into another episode of the Stat Line. I'm your host, Jeff the Stat Guy, part of the Fanatic Sports Network. It's Thursday, so it's Gamecock Takeover. Look, we're going to deep dive into the heartbreaking loss at Texas A&M, get all that off our chest, and then we're going to talk about Beamer's press conference earlier this week and what that actually means for the future. We got all that right after this. Let's go ahead and spin that intro.
And he's not had a pass. Look at this, fourth down. He's not had a snap. Here comes that pressure. Walks it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
All right, so last Saturday, South Carolina loses a heartbreaker, 31-30, out in Kyle Field, out at Texas A&M. I guess first, let's talk about the good. We'll talk about the first half. South Carolina goes into halftime, leading 30-3 in a first half that really South Carolina probably should have distanced themselves even more than they did. The good from that half, getting pressure on the quarterback. I believe that's part to what led to some of the errant throws, what led to some of the interceptions and turnovers. You had probably another 2 or 3 that should have been intercepted. I know the big one for sure, Fred Johnson just sitting in the middle of the field, the linebacker, quarterback doesn't see him, throws it right to him, hits him in the worst place possible for a defender, right in the hands. So little things like that could have been a big momentum. But in the first half, I mean, you had a couple drives stall, but really the last 2 or 3 drives of that first half, you go into halftime with all the momentum as you extend the lead even right before the half, which was huge. For me, the biggest play of the first half was something that I've been waiting to see for the last 3 years and didn't think I would ever see in his South Carolina career, and that was Nick Harbor finally get loose. Just ran a little 10-yard stick route, good ball from Lenoris, turns upfield, the safety comes and tries to throw a shoulder block tackle, he misses it, and then 2 steps later, and you knew it was a house call as Nick Harbor gets loose up the sideline for an 80-yard touchdown. And that was the first time in his South Carolina career that we truly got to experience his track speed and what a difference that can make in the open field. Coach I getting in the comments, what do you think contributed to stopping the run game in the first half? I'll be honest, I think we were just the aggressor. I think the A&M kind of overlooked us. I think that was part of the problem. Maybe wasn't as much of what we did, but what A&M's mentality was going into the game. I believe they kind of overlooked us. And in the end of the day, South Carolina is still an SEC football team, and they brought the physicality. And I think they punched A&M in the mouth in the first quarter. A&M wasn't really expecting it. And from there, it kind of just snowballed and got out of hand for them. Now, obviously, halftime happened. They were able to regroup. But definitely in the first half, I think South Carolina kind of hit them in the mouth with their physicality, and A&M just wasn't expecting it. Because to me, there was really no difference in what we did in the first half and the second half. Schematically, we didn't change anything. So it's not like, oh, well, this worked in the first half, it didn't in the second. I just think they weren't expecting for us to be able to get pressure the way we were. Obviously, you could tell Dylan Stewart looked healthy for the first time in probably a month on Saturday. He was coming off the line. they did some A&M, I think, made some mistakes with their coverage, especially in pass protection, and revolving around Dylan Stewart, leaving the running back to kind of chip or trying to chip with a tight end and then get out of there. That's just not a successful blocking strategy to try to stop Dylan Stewart. Bigger play, Harper touchdown, or Stewart calls in the fumble. So momentum-wise, the Stewart fumble was absolutely massive. I think that's what started it all and really got us going. So probably I would have to say the bigger play for the game in the totality would have been that Stewart fumble creation. But the Harbor touchdown was just so special to me because I didn't think we would ever see that in his South Carolina career. Obviously, he has those tools, but we haven't been using him that way. We've been throwing a lot of overs and unders to him, and then just a lot of the deep ball stuff to Harbor. So I think to finally get to experience what his athleticism and what a difference that can be on a play on the field, I think was why that was so special to me. But the Dylan Stewart creating the fumble was just absolutely nasty. I mean, with one hand pushing the running back to the ground, with the other hand pushing the quarterback to the ground, the quarterback tries to throw it. He gets spun 90 degrees backwards and ends up launching the ball backwards. And so just absolutely crazy from an athletic standpoint from both of those plays, honestly. But I feel like we've seen that before from Dylan. That's just another play on the highlight reel of why he's going to be a top 5 pick probably next year when he comes out. The kid's just a freak athletically. And it's good to see him back healthy again. He's been dealing with the hip thing for a couple weeks. And so, like I said, definitely finally looked healthy. But like I said, you leave some points out there in the first half. Couple field goals, couple drives stalled by penalties, which have kind of come back to bite us. And so you left points out there, but going into halftime, you're up 30-3. In my mind, the game's over. As a South Carolina fan, I should never think that, but in my mind, the game's over. So we roll into halftime, and in talking in all my group chats, I said the key to winning this game, you come out, you start the second half with a stop, you get any kind of points, and the game's over. So we come out, start the second half, we get A&M to 4th and 12, and you have them right where you want them. Obviously, A&M's going to go for it. They're down 30-3. The ball's around midfield. To me, while yes, the run was special, it was a great individual effort play to pick up the first down. To me, what gave it up was the defensive tackle for South Carolina, Goodwine, tried to do more than what his job is on that play. You see him swim to the outside. He gets pushed even further out, and it opens up the entire middle of the field, allowing the A&M quarterback to scramble right up the middle. 16 yards later, picks up the first. A&M goes on to score the touchdown. And so now here we go, 30-10. South Carolina gets their first possession. They get to a 4th and 1. They call their first time out of the second half, which I don't like that call to begin with. A&M has all the momentum. Now you're burning the timeout early in the third quarter. And again, our defense had done such a great job in the first half. And really, even on that drive, the first drive had done a good job. To me, you punt the ball, you pin them deep, you try to get another stop. If you are going to go for it, you don't take the ball out of Norris Sellers' hands. Whether it's him rolling out with the ability to pass it, or if it's just a straight sprint run out for him, and you tell him, look, you're 6'4", go get me a yard somewhere. Just find a hole somewhere and get upfield. Instead, you see him run the ball backside. The offensive line gets absolutely blown up. He gets tackled 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Turnover on downs, again, right around midfield. 2 plays later, A&M hits their shot play, another touchdown, and now it's 30-17, and A&M has all the momentum. And I remember sitting here watching the game thinking, I don't know if South Carolina can score again. And here we are with, maybe 5-6 minutes gone, in the third quarter. I mean, we ton of football left, and I felt South Carolina was done scoring. And so you see some of the same things offensively that have been biting us in the rear all season long have shown themselves on this first drive. And it's like, can we get over this hump? And clearly we couldn't. Let's just jump ahead to the final drive. You have the final drive of the game. South Carolina only needing a field goal to win. It's 2nd and 1. South Carolina still has about 1:50 on the clock, still has some timeouts to work with. And instead of picking up the first down, getting 4 fresh set of downs to work with, they drop Sellers back to pass, leave him in the pocket. He ends up taking a 12-yard sack. So you immediately go from 2nd and 1 to 3rd and 13, and it's just absolutely – I mean, the drive at that point is just absolutely over. Got another comment from Stevie G. Does Beamer survive the coaching carousel? Stevie G, I wish he wouldn't. I think they're going to give him 26, but the seat is going to be astronomically hot heading into 26. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous for Beamer. But yeah, you look, so now you're at 3rd and 13. Lenoir's takes another sack, so now you're at 4th and 16, and then takes off, tries to run for it, and goes down way too easily after a 4-yard gain on 4th and 16. Turnover on downs. Obviously, A&M's just able to take knees and ice the game at that point. And so a game that you weren't supposed to win, a game that you at a place you had never won before in your entire history, and now here you are on the bad side of a horrible loss. And so what the numbers say, so since 2000, SEC schools in SEC games are 286-0 when winning by 27 points at any point during the football game until this weekend. Now it's 286-1 with the one loss being on Beamer. And this is part of the reason why, to Stevie G's comment, that I think, so if it's year 1 or 2, I think when you do something as bad as this, you can kind of get away with it because you're trying to build the program. Beamer's in year 5. And as bad as this season has been with playoff aspirations heading into the year, you now look at this loss being a abysmal mark to the program because it shows how far you've actually fallen. You have no business losing a football game that you're winning 30-3. I don't care what the talent gap is. You have to find a way to get 3 points in the second half. You have to find a way to get one more stop to win that football game. And so while I do think my answer to that is no, but the right answer will be he will survive the coaching carousel. He will be the head coach at South Carolina heading into 2026. But that seat is going to be hot. And I believe personally he made it even hotter this week with his press conference, which is our next topic. So in his Tuesday presser, Shane Beamer comes out and says, this time next year, South Carolina will be sitting here on this Tuesday watching the college football playoff show, seeing where we are ranked, and we will be ranked in the we will be battling for a playoff spot. And so we kind of heard similar things from him last year after we came in on the wrong end of that 3-way tie. None of us making it into the playoffs with 3 losses. And so you go from a 9-3 team that was on the cusp of a playoff appearance last year to what they've shown this year, to now doubling down with 2 weeks left in the season, of which you're not going to a bowl game, predicting that we will be in the playoff hunt next year. And so to me, that prediction, I think he was always getting 26. The seat was just going to be hot. But that prediction probably just signed his death warrant as far as his coaching career goes, probably before the season ends. I think without that prediction, he could have finished the season before they let him go next year. But now with the prediction that he comes out and makes on Tuesday, I just don't see, if we're 7-4 at this point next year, or 6-5, how they let him hang around. I think he's fired well before the Clemson game, because you've just come out and you've laid out the pipeline dream of, we're going to be back in playoff contention next year. And that's all fine and good, except for there's nothing about this team that says we're a playoff team. We're not a piece away. It's not like, oh, well, while South Carolina fans hated the OC, we're not just an OC away from being 8-3 right now. It's just not the case. We have way bigger problems. The O-line has not gotten better. So we still have major holes on the offensive line. Hey, what's going on? Appreciate you, JV. Appreciate you jumping in. Sorry my Gamecocks couldn't get it done for your dogs. I was talking all that noise at halftime. I thought we had sewn up y'all's trip to Atlanta. And alas, South Carolina football strikes again. Unfortunately, claiming another victim, making y'all have to play the wait-and-see game to see if the dogs are going to make it to Atlanta. But yeah, to me, it's just crazy with what this team is right now. To make a prediction like that is just insane. You don't know what the future holds at quarterback. You could be starting a redshirt freshman or a true freshman at quarterback next year. Lots of issues on the offensive line. We don't know what's going to happen with this wide receiver core. You obviously have the group of freshmen you're really high on, but what does that do for other guys in that room? And then on the defensive side of the ball, I knew we were going to take a step back this year, but we've taken a major step back, and you're losing more guys this year. You're losing the interior to your defensive line for the second year in a row without the guys to come in right behind them like we had this year, who at least had been in the program for a while. You're losing another starter on the edge, so you're losing 3 of your 4 starters across the line. You hope you can keep Dylan Stewart, but we know that the Ohio States of the world called last year. People are probably going to call for him this year. And can we keep him, and can we pay him the money to get him to stay in Columbia? And then behind that, your linebacker room will be back, but then you're losing a lot in the secondary for the second year in a row. You think Beamer makes that statement because he knows his seat is hot? See, I guess, but the problem is, you like the confidence, and I like my coach to have some confidence and some swag to him. But when you make a statement like that, you better have the horses to back it up, because I believe, whether right or wrong, that even on a hot seat heading into next year, that he had wiggle room to do some things to save his job again next year. Whereas now, I don't think, because of this statement, I think he's made it very clear what he has to get done next year, or he's probably no longer coaching at the University of South Carolina. So maybe he made that comment because he knows he's on the hot seat right now, and maybe he's trying to protect his job this year, but I think it made his job a lot harder for next year. He's made it playoff or bust for sure. And that's you made it playoffs or bust at a school that, outside of the Spurrier era where we won 10 games in a row, 3 straight years, outside of that, 8-4 is an amazing season. Like, we're throwing a parade for 8-4 in Columbia. And so at a program with no success, this is the hill you're going to die on. I'm with you, Stat. I appreciate it, JV. Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm all for trying to sell the product. I'm all for being confident and cocky and arrogant. Like that's me to a T, but you have to have the horses in the stable to back it up. You can't be out here trying to sell Louis, and you got the Kmart brand in the back of your trunk that you're trying to panhandle out. And so that's what it kind of feels like right now. And the problem is, too, when you look around the SEC, it's not getting easier. Oklahoma was a lot better this year than I thought they were going to be. Texas is kind of down this year. Florida's down, but Florida's kind of a weird angle because there's so much talent surrounding them. The right coach could have them back in a year or two. And so to me, that's the other issue with Beamer's statement is it's not like you're heading into a year where the stars are going to align for you. Like we get Georgia as a home game next year. That's probably not going to be, that's not a game that you need to be counting on where we can beat them to increase our resume. Like if that's what Beamer's circling, then we might have some problems. And so with Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, all back on the schedule next year, yeah, while Tennessee and Florida might not be what they are in years past, all three of those programs historically own South Carolina. And so now you get your three East rivals back on the schedule, and probably two of the three are going to be must-wins next year. And so to me, I think it's just added pressure for no reason. There was no reason to make the comment. I think you always had next year if you're Beamer, but now because of that, you've put yourself in a no-win situation. Either you make the playoffs and you did what you said, which is great, or you're probably fired by the middle of October. And so to me, I think it just puts South Carolina's football program in a horrible place, which is why I think you go ahead and tear it down now and just start the rebuild now. Because I think the common sense in me says that all roads lead to a rebuild down the road anyway, that Beamer's not going to be here another 5 years. He's going to be lucky if he can get through October next year. Coach I getting in. Fellas in Harbaugh Porter, NFL, are back in Cola. Man, this has been a big talking point. I know people love the Sellers to Miami angle. I just don't see a world where these two guys don't get the draft grade they want. Whether right or wrong, NFL scouts are all about how good you look in shorts and a t-shirt and feel like they can fix everything else. And I can promise you this, I don't know who all's going to show up to the combine, but I promise you there's not going to be a wide receiver and quarterback duo that looks better in shorts and a t-shirt than those two young men. And so because of that, I think it's NFL for both of them. I think Sellers still gets a first-round grade, and I think Harbaugh ends up getting a top 3-round grade. Now, again, would I draft either one of those gentlemen to my NFL team in that spot? No, but I know what NFL execs like, and they love a project that looks good in shorts and a t-shirt. Both young men will interview well. They both have some charisma to them, and so I think that'll help them as well. Don't forget you have OU on the schedule, and we're good. Right. So, I mean, OU still there. We also get Texas next year. I mean, the schedule's rough. And so when I look at that schedule, the schedule doesn't scream this is a playoff schedule to me unless you're a team like Georgia. And we're so far away from that. Like we might get somebody. We might win one game that we shouldn't, but there's going to be 4 or 5 of those on the schedule, and we're going to have to win the majority of them if we want to be a playoff team. And that's even what I felt heading into this year with that stretch in the month of October and ending with this A&M game. I felt we had to win 3 of the 5. Now, obviously, we had some bad losses before that, but we proved we couldn't do it this year, and I don't think we're going to be as good of a football team next. They're going to run fast and Sellers on with Wow and Indy. Right. And then, like, we know he's got the big arm. They both are going to look good running. And then they're both going to look good if they decide to do the bench, shuttle, whatever else they want to do. They're just going to look amazing and all that. I will say, if Sellers does not go to the NFL, I do not think he hits the portal. I think South Carolina, whether right or wrong, matches whatever any other team tries to offer. He's an in-state kid. He wants to play for South Carolina, and he will be South Carolina's quarterback if he's not in the NFL draft. Move on from Sellers. Harbor, he's holding the offense back. Harbor, 4th or 5th round, come back to Ole Miss, 2nd round pick. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that, right? Like, I feel like a different offense would use Harbor the way he needs to be used to show his skill set. I just think that he's going to get the 3rd round draft grade that he wants simply because of how he looks and how he runs. And they're going to look at it like, well, South Carolina didn't use him right, but we will, type deal. Whether right or wrong. And again, like, Sellers, I think, gives the offense the best chance right now because of how bad the O-line is. The problem is he's not running and he's not aggressive, so then he really doesn't. But you also don't want to put a true freshman quarterback behind this offensive line that has given up 38 sacks now with Sellers back there, who's capable of breaking a bunch of sacks. Bama, UGA, Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee, A&M, and Clemson. Right, like, so if we're saying that they're going to let a 3-loss SEC team in, what 3, like, okay, we've won the last 2 games at Clemson, so maybe we get them for the 3rd straight time there, but that means we still need to win 2 of the other 5. I don't see 2. I mean, we could very easily go 0-6 in that stretch. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. So Arkansas, Kentucky, I think, are the 2 wins next year for sure. The Mississippi State game, I think, is a toss-up. And that, like, I for real, I could see us being 5-8, 7, or 5-7, 4-8 type deal again next year because the schedule is absolutely brutal. And I don't think that we have the talent to deal with it. And so now, again, part of this could be coming off the loss and losing the way we did, me being in my feelings. Like, maybe I'm feeling completely different if we close that game out, but we didn't. And so I have to look at what my eyes have seen all season long, and it's that the offensive line is bad. They haven't gotten better. They've at least cleaned up the penalties, but it's still a bad offensive line. Bad play calling. It didn't get any better with the change this Saturday. So we're going to have to see a new OC. And then with that new OC, do we see a brand new offensive staff? Is it a new O-line coach? Is it a new wide receiver coach? And those are going to be the changes that I need to see this offseason before you have me buy in South Carolina playoffs or bust and not just believing it's bust before the season starts. Maybe they make the right moves, but even if they do, they have to hit on them. And it's just way too many ifs for me heading into a season with the coach's job on the line. If you're saying before the year starts, we need if to all happen, or we're going to fire our coach. If that's the case, just go ahead and fire him. Just go ahead and fire him. He's a great guy. I love Beamer to death. He loves the state of South Carolina. He's from here. But end of the day, sometimes you got to do what's best for – end of the day, football and college sports is a business, and sometimes you got to do what's best for the business. What positions you want to look at in the portal. So, again, the defensive line is going to be absolutely ravished again this year. We're going to have to re-up in the defensive line. We're going to have to try to get some help we're going to have to get some help on the O-line as well. And so hitting in the trenches is so hard because you just don't know how it's going to play out, right? I mean, we've seen offensive linemen come from other schools that had these great 3- and 4-year careers, and it just doesn't translate. And so we're going to have to hit on both trenches, and then the other major position is going to be the secondary, and then I think we need to get another running back. I like the Matthew Fuller kid, but like next year it'll be him and Juwan Howell, and Howell has like 7 carries this year. And Matthew Fuller just started getting touches like 3 weeks ago. So I think you have to go get a running back out of the portal. You need to get a guy or 2 for the secondary, but the focus has to be in the trenches on the O-line and the D-line if you're serious about trying to make a push for the playoffs next year. And the problem is it's not one guy at those positions can necessarily fix it. You're looking at probably needing 5 or 6 guys on the D-line. completely rebuilding that room. You're looking at probably 2 offensive linemen who you feel can come in and start for you next year. Hold on. Is the coach job on the line? What happened to it's USC? Y'all not trying to win. Look, that's my mentality is we're South Carolina. If they go 6-6 to 8-4, things are great. But end of the day, we have 3 football wins heading into Cupcake Week, and we still have Clemson. So best case scenario, this is a 5-win season, which is still below my 6 wins. And my head coach just came out Tuesday and said that this time next year, look to see South Carolina's name on the playoff list because we're going to be in the hunt. And so to me, he's not met my expectations, which I think are likewise for a lot of South Carolina fans, and it's very minimal. It's get us to a bowl game and we're happy. Win 8 or 9 games here or there and we're happy. But you can't have a 9-3 season with high expectations heading into this year, have a bomb of a season, and then double down and make crazy expectations, putting it all back on the line again the following year. I just think it's just too much. And I think that's why I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, you know what, he's got to go. Because I think now he's getting fired next year regardless. And that's always kind of been my opinion is if you're already have your mind made up that somebody's probably going to get fired, you should just go ahead and fire him. Why hang on to him? And that's part of my business background of being a restaurant manager. I'm hard-nosed as a restaurant manager, but end of the day, I know how to make money. And so sometimes you got to make tough decisions and hard calls that people aren't going to like, but you do it for the betterment of the business. And if they want to pay the college athletes and they want to pay these coaches this ridiculous amount of money, end of the day now, I'm looking at this like a business, and he's not getting the job done, and I equate wins to money. And if you're not winning football games, you're losing the program money, you got to go and try to get somebody that can come in here and win football games. Now, again, what I think South Carolina's ceiling is probably a 8-win football team at best, maybe every 4 or 5 years getting to 9 or 10 wins. But that's best case scenario. Other than that, South Carolina's historically a 6-6, 7-5 football team in their better years. And it hurts, right? Because I'm a winner. I love winning. I hate losing more than I like winning. And so because of that, it's a hard pill to swallow saying that you're okay being 6-6. Because deep down you're not. But I'm also a realist and know the team that I support, just who we are, the finances we have behind it. That's just unfortunately where we are in the world of college athletics when it comes to football. So I do. I think Beamer has now overstayed his welcome. He will get one more year. They're going to give him 26. But I think end of the day, I think he went on ahead and started digging the grave with the comments earlier this week. And it rubs South Carolina fans the wrong way because the whole reason I'm as mad about this year as I am is because all offseason I had to hear about South Carolina being a playoff team. And then in the middle of October, you could see the writing on the wall that we weren't going to a bowl game. And so when you go from preseason being ranked 11th in the country, a potential playoff team, to mid-October, you see the writing on the wall that you're not going to a bowl game, that's a bad season. Even for South Carolina standards, that's a bad season. And so we get Coastal Carolina this weekend. Now, look, Coastal, I believe they play in the Sun Belt now, but they're not many years removed from the FCS. Don't put it past this South Carolina team to lose a game to a bad football team. They've done it before. They got beat by Citadel when Spurrier was on his way out after he quit midseason. I mean, they've done some bad things. And then you still have the big bad giant Clemson waiting at the end of the year. And there's a portion of this fan base that will tell you they are okay going 1-11 every single year if it means they beat Clemson. The Clemson game means that much to this state. I'm not on board with that. I hate Clemson, but I hate losing way more than I enjoy beating Clemson. So I'm not trying to go 1-11 every year, even if it means bragging to my rivals, because they're just going to rub it in my face that I'm 1-11. So we still have something to play for. The kids seem to be playing hard. Now, I felt if you only watched the second half of that A&M game, and I told you that a team was up 30-3 at halftime, you would have told me that A&M was up 30-3 at halftime, because that's how they played in the second half. And South Carolina didn't answer the bell, and we didn't come with the intensity and aggression. We thought that A&M was going to lay down and just take it, and A&M's a good football team, and they didn't. And so, end of the day, look, South Carolina, whether right or wrong, everything they want to play for is still in front of them, because they still get Clemson. They get Clemson at home, and so that's going to be a must-win. Now, I will say, if for some reason Clemson wins that game and wins it ugly, which they have done before. I mean, we've seen Clemson beat South Carolina 63-17, 45-7. I mean, they've had some nasty wins. But if for some reason Clemson wins that game ugly, Beamer might not survive that. I just don't think Clemson's a good football team. I think it's two bad football teams playing each other, and the game's not going to look good. There might be some points, but it's not going to be good football. But it's a winnable game for South Carolina. So you win the last two games, you go into the offseason with some confidence. Hopefully you win at National Signing Day coming up in December, and you get ready to rock the offseason. But look, man, whether right or wrong, Beamer's laid it out. Playoffs or bust next year. So all I can do is get on board, get on the Beamer train, and all I can say is let's go to the playoffs next year. And if that means having to beat Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Clemson, Florida, Tennessee, let's go beat everybody that lines up in front of us. Now, who's our quarterback going to be? Is Nick Harbor going to be here? Is Dylan Stewart? Look, all I can say is all we got is all we need. So let's go out and get some dubs. But look, I'm the stat guy. This has been another episode of the Stat Line. Y'all make sure y'all tune back in at 9 p.m. Eastern to check out the Chuck and Bucket Boys, because my attitude will be completely different, because we get to talk about a program at South Carolina that knows about winning when we talk about them Lady Gamecocks. As always, peace and go Cox. We out of here.